I'm Rebel Jabari, and even though this is the first video on this account, I wanted to dive right in and give you guys a life tip of why you should not buy a used BMW. Now, this channel will be about the crazy life that I live, but also some of the things that I experience in my life and how that can apply to yours, so you guys do not make some of the same mistakes in life that I did and have some of the information that I wish I knew around 1 year ago and 2 months. Last year in 2023, in February, I had finished basically buying my first car, which was from a coworker, and I was told by another coworker, hey, this guy sells cars. So I thought, okay, well, you just referred me to him, so this guy must be the real deal. So I thought a guy was helping me out, and he sells a BMW that he's been driving, but it looks good. It drove good when I first tested it. Had no engine light or anything of that sort. Okay, so that's cool. I bought it off of my coworker. He's a 50-plus-year-old man. He's been with my company that I worked for 25 years. So I thought, okay, this is a trustworthy guy. Now, the first red flag, he was being really weird about giving me the car and selling it. And I didn't know what was the issue though, because I thought he'd just be upfront if it had issues that was wrong with it. So he was going up and down about how he doesn't like selling junk. The car needs a tune-up. Then he tells me I should put $2,000 aside for maintenance. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that I've endured while having bought a BMW 550i 2008 for $4,000, which in my opinion was way more than it was worth. The transmission, ever since it was sold, was having malfunctions because it was worn. So the transmission was worn by the previous users, and even by the time I needed it, or I purchased it, it needed to be replaced. The check engine light was going on and off due to various reasons. The spark plugs were worn very badly, so I changed those. I had no mechanical experience before getting this car, and I ended up changing the spark plugs, the front brake pads and rotors, attempting to service the transmission by changing a couple seals on it and adding some transmission fluid and doing a transmission fluid change. That did nothing for the transmission, and only if I knew just how bad condition of this transmission was in, or if I knew that this transmission couldn't have been revived by just adding some oil, I wouldn't have ever done that, because it was a long process. And also, it's a harder process with BMWs because they don't have the entry to at the top under the engine or under the hood in the engine bay where you can just pour oil in. You actually have to get a jack, go underneath, unscrew a hole with a hex screw, and then get it out that way, and then put a tube in there and pump it from underneath. That's a lot of work, and it's a pain. I can tell you it's an absolute pain. So they sold me this car knowing that it had all the issues that it did, and he told me to put $2,000 aside. I actually paid $2,000 just to get an oil leak fixed. So on the side, I paid money to get oil leaks fixed, and that was just one huge leak that the oil was leaking out of the car. And this coworker was telling me, oh, cars, they leak oil, cars leak oil and things of that sort. And also just lying, basically, just lying and saying, oh, it's a normal thing, old cars leak oil. Well, that's not exactly a good thing, because one, you'll be replacing the oil, and two, that hot oil is leaking into other systems inside of the engine bay, which is gonna trigger the engine light and lead to engine failure or some sort of complication. Leaks are not good for your car, no matter what anyone says. It doesn't matter if there's puddles of leaks in a parking lot, like this asshole coworker was telling me. So you have to be careful when you trust some of these people. And I had to eventually, after 8,000 miles of driving my car, I was forced to stop because the transmission was in such bad condition. After only 8,000 miles within the span of 9 or 8 months, I wasn't even putting 1,000 miles a month on this car. I was putting just under 1,000 miles a month on this car. and it didn't even last me a year. It had been having issues. So what I had to do was I had to sell parts on it. I would try to make a profit, and even now I have a bunch of parts at home, but this is what I had to do to try and even out, because I'm not rich. And after my car broke down on me, with all the money that I put into it as well, it left me in a bad place. It left me carless, and it left me financially drained by trying to fix this car and not want to give up on this car. Now here's the thing. The reason you can get so easily tricked into buying a used BMW is because these BMW cars look so good. Even old model cars, some old model BMWs like the one that I had, the 555, is such a gorgeous car on the outside. And I still had people, even with me posting that I was parting out my vehicle on Facebook Marketplace, they're like, can I buy the whole thing? I had a student who was 17 years old, and I felt bad for the dude because he could get really screwed over if he doesn't be careful with him trying to make his choices. Because if I knew if my car was in somewhat drivable condition, I could have just sold it to him. But he was asking me, I need something to get from point A to point B. I told him, look, get a bike, buy an electric skateboard. This car is not what you need at your age. You're 17 years old. I think he was 17 years old. Yeah. I told him this is not what you need. This car's transmission is fucked up. You cannot drive it. It doesn't matter if it looks good. It's about what's on the inside of these vehicles. And again, I told him that because he's young. He needs to make a good choice. I told him, go for a responsible and durable brand. I said, go to a used car dealership, find someone in your family who knows about cars, and get them to go with you. I told him that because clearly at that age, he doesn't know much about cars, which means when you're buying a first car, you're easily tricked into buying a bad car. And that's exactly what these assholes at my job clearly did with me. They tricked me. They took advantage of someone who wasn't well oriented with vehicles yet, and they sold me a car that was screwed up. Told me to put $2,000 to the side. This car has easily $8,000 worth of work and to be done on it, and possibly more. The alternator on this car was bad. I had to change the battery, and then when I got the little pop-up on the BMW screen that says high battery drain, if you've seen that one, that shit, guess what, it told me, oh, okay, well, it's not the battery, it's the alternator. So the alternator is going out in this. The heat didn't work in the car. The transmission was going out ever since I bought it. And when I first test drive the car, my coworker was actually telling me, hey, don't go too fast on the don't press too hard. He was telling me to go as slow as I possibly could. That way I couldn't feel the jerking sensations that the car was having, because it was having what do you call it? The transmission was slipping. If you don't know what it means when a transmission is slipping, I'll show you what it means right here. So it's when your transmission is slipping out of second gear to third gear, but the car is not accelerating, and then it will have a huge jump. Now from here, your car is still drivable, but if you keep doing that over and over, and the car is doing that over and over, the transmission will eventually slip out, making it and rendering it completely driveless. And you do not want to replace a transmission on a BMW, especially an old model, because a lot of old model BMWs transmissions are purposely made to fail, I believe. I feel like they are purposely made non-durable, and for the 550i, they've actually been known to have a good amount of transmission issues. And for my model specifically, the 2008, these transmissions are going for, used by the way, $2,000. The cheapest you could find is $1,000. You can find some for $800, but the shipping costs and then also the tax on that will go up to $1,000. So overall, not a car that you want to own for your first car. And this is exactly what a transparent person would tell you, but we live in a world where people are selfish and they don't mind taking a gain at the advantage of somebody else's loss, which is why I'm giving you the information from the experience that I had to not to do your research and to not make the same mistake that I did. Stop trying to get a car that you think looks nice and it's going to impress someone when you don't even have much in your bank account. Get something that looks like shit but is durable, okay? You've seen the movie Real Steel. You see the robot that they pulled from the junkyard named Adam. He was a sparring bot. He was made from pure steel, and because he's a sparring bot, he was meant to take a lot of damage. So that sparring bot from the junkyard went from the junkyard to the fucking top, and he fought Zeus. Not sure how many people watch that movie, but I absolutely love it. Perfect example there. Old robot, old machinery, but it's made of durable components. BMWs inside the engine bay are made from plastic trash, okay? Plastic trash. You're not supposed to have as much plastic in an engine bay, and any mechanics will say this. Even Scotty Kilmore has said it, because when it gets hot under the engine, these plastic parts are eventually going to fail, meaning you're going to have to spend more money and go and take it down to the BMW center, where BMW can scam you out of more money because their prices are absolutely fucking horrendous, which is exactly why I got into DIY. This is not the car that you need to own for your first car, and that's just what I'm going to make clear. Do not buy used BMWs on Marketplace. I've even seen someone say and try and trick students into buying a car that was screwed up. They said, oh, this car is perfect for students, it's going to get you around, because their target audience is someone that they can sell it to easily and cut off, and then they're like, you're left with a piece of junk. They're trying to sell their problems. Listen, and listen very closely. Nobody out here is selling a really nice looking BMW for a couple of $1,000s and it's fully functional and everything. That's just real talk. So whoever is doing it, they're just a scam artist, and they're trying to put their problems onto you. They screwed up their car, and now they don't want to pay for the repairs. They want to find a quick way out, give it to you so that you can deal with their problems and eventually have a junk car. Don't make the same mistake I did. Stay away from used fucking BMWs and stay away from shitty people. And that's it for my message for now. But share this information with others. It's very important that your friends know this and whatnot, because not many people are going to be upfront about this and tell you this like I did.